Welcome back, guys. Welcome to another Police State Media video. Today, I'm featuring Mr. Honor Your Oath. Gentleman's name is Jeff Gray. He does some great work out there. He's out of Florida. Usually just holds a sign up, challenges people to allow him to just say, God bless the homeless vets. So, without further ado, let's have at it. This video, I think, is in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, and I think you're going to like it.
When the sergeant received a call from his deputies on a chilly December night, he had no idea that he would be the one sitting in the interrogation room before long.
Today's date is Friday, December 24th, 2021, and the time is 7:03 p.m. The location of this interview is the command staff conference room at the New Smyrna Beach Police Department. Presently being interviewed is Sergeant Richard Kirkland. I am Lieutenant Mark Severance with the New Smyrna Beach Police Department. Are you aware this interview is being recorded?
I am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the statement you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Sergeant Richard Kirkland found himself in a difficult position after two of his deputies reached out to him for help.
On December 14th, 2021, there was a CAD call asking for police to respond to 143 Canal Street in reference to a suspicious person. Are you familiar with that call?
I am.
Were you working as the Bravo shift supervisor that evening?
I was.
So you were filling in for another supervisor,
Yes,
correct?
I was on overtime. Correct. The suspicious person call came out, was dispatched to Galt about a male bothering customers and asking for money. I was contacted by Officer Beatty after the call for service, not during it, but yes.
Okay, so you had no knowledge of what was going on at the scene at the time when either Officer Galt was there or Officer Beatty was there?
Correct.
So, you said Officer Beatty calls you, you believe, at the end of his interaction.
Correct.
The suspicious person they are talking about is Jeff Gray, a U.S. Army vet and a retired truck driver whose worst fears were about to come true.
The business.
See that for this?
Huh?
See that for this?
Why? They said you're asking the customers for money and stuff like that.
God bless them on this one.
Okay, well, they don't want you up front of the business.
I don't want you up in front of the business.
Okay, well, that's not how this is
So you
going
can
to
go get in your car and leave.
go. No. They said you're asking for money and stuff like that.
That's what they said. It's hearsay.
Huh?
It's hearsay.
That's...
I say I'm not asking for money.
Okay, well, they said you're up front. So can you just go somewhere else?
No.
Why?
Because I'm not going somewhere. I put it in my heart to stand right here. I'm going to stand right here.
Okay, but they don't want you blocking the sidewalk and stuff.
I'm not blocking the sidewalk.
Okay, you have your ID on you?
I don't have any ID on me now.
Okay.
And if I did, I wouldn't give it to you anyway.
Alright, well, you need to just move along. That's all they want you to do.
Nope, not happening.
Why?
Because I'm just saying God bless someone's vets.
Okay, yeah, and you have the right to do that.
Yeah.
They just don't want you in front of their business.
Sometime earlier, Officer Brett Galt had received a distressing call from a business manager.
What did they tell you?
The call note started out saying that there was a male dressed in all black, black shirt, black jacket, and originally he was asking for money from people inside there, and that's all I read because I was right around the corner from the scene.
So what crime were you intending to investigate there?
Well, at that point they said that he was at or in the business asking for money, and the business owner just wanted him to be moved along, and they didn't want anything to happen to him. But at that point he was in the business asking people for money, as far as I understand from that point.
Okay.
While recounting the incident, Officer Galt constantly struggled to get a hold of himself. The reason behind this behavior would surface much later.
Upon your arrival on scene, what did you observe?
A black male, or not black, a white male dressed in all black, standing on the sidewalk.
Can you describe the interaction you had with him?
Normal questions I had, just what are you doing there? Is there a purpose you're up here? Stuff like that. He was just keeping to himself at that point.
Okay. What did he tell you he was doing?
That he was just whatever the sign was like, God bless the homeless vets. He was just trying to make people aware of that.
Okay.
And he just kept going on that topic.
But that wasn't the entire truth.
You're not asking for money?
I am not asking
I
for
don't.
money.
Okay, your sign doesn't say it, so I don't know. I mean, have you asked anybody for money?
But I mean,
To be
I'll tell you,
honest?
my name is Jeff. What's your name?
Officer Galt.
Officer what?
Galt.
Galt?
Yeah.
G-A-U-L-T?
G-A-O-T. And you haven't asked for money or anything like that?
I'm not going to answer your question.
Okay. Can I just see the back of your sign? Okay. You're making this more complicated than it has to be.
No, I'm not. I'm standing here on the sidewalk saying God bless homeless veterans.
I know, but causing. Are you talking to any of these customers?
Yeah, I'm saying God bless homeless veterans.
Okay, well, if they don't want you talking, then you just can't keep saying the same thing over and over again, causing this problem with them.
All right, well, have a nice night, sir.
Okay, well, they just want you moved along, so can you go ahead and move along for me?
No, sir. I didn't know you guys had body cams.
Yes. Every agency has body cameras, so.
And that's recording now.
Jeff had some wisdom to share with Officer Galt, but the cop was already sold on the other side of the story. Officer Galt had to get a few facts straight.
At this location, did you know what was public property and what was business property? Roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you tell Mr. Gray that asking for money is technically against city ordinance?
At that point, I thought panhandling was a city ordinance violation.
Okay, so it was your belief that it was?
Yes, sir.
Where did you get that?
I thought that early on in the training that we had a call, and there was people asking for money, and I thought that we looked up a city ordinance violation that was panhandling, and it's not a city ordinance violation. It's a state statute actually. So,
For, what's the state statute refer to?
like if you're blocking, like stepping out in traffic, blocking people's right to move.
So it's a 316 violation for some type of impediment of traffic.
Right.
If
It's
you're
traffic violation.
soliciting or entering traffic patterns, right? That wasn't the case here, was it?
No.
Okay. Did you speak with the reporting party inside the business?
I did.
So describe your conversation with him.
I tried to talk to him and be like, hey man, and I don't want him to be in trouble, or I just don't want my customers to be.
I got you. That makes sense.
Yeah, she's scared to leave. She didn't want to leave. Is that what you're saying?
Good.
No.
I changed my mind about the ID. I will show you my ID.
Okay. All right.
Here's my ID.
Yeah. Well, can you just move along for me? That's all they want you to do.
I'm not moving along.
The accusations continued to mount.
He initially was like, oh, he was up talking to people at the table, asking them for money, and then when my wages went out, he went on to say that he was harassing her, and he wouldn't go into detail of that, and the waitress didn't want to go into detail about that either.
Okay.
So at that point, I went back out, and
You re-engaged Mr. Gray.
I did. Yeah. At that point, I believed he might have been asking people for money due to him not answering my questions. So that's why I went back out and re-engaged with him. I thought we had something maybe stirring up.
So at this point, you're still thinking panhandling is a city ordinance
Yes.
violation,
Yes.
and you're acting on that assumption.
Unsure of how to proceed, Officer Galt made a hasty decision. A decision he would soon come to regret.
Who did you call on the phone when you went inside the business?
I called officer.
And what did you tell him?
I told him what the business owner just told me, and that at this point, I just need someone else to kind of hear the stories and work through it and see what we have.
When Officer Beatty arrived, did you go meet him?
I did, yes. I
And-
gave him a rundown of what was going on and what
Okay.
the business owner told me and what the mail was actively doing at that point.
Okay, can you describe Officer Beatty's initial contact with Mr. Gray?
This is my ID.
You want to play that game?
I'm not showing you anything else. At this point, I'm invoking my right to remain silent. I'm invoking my right to have my attorney present during questions. I'm not answering questions. I'm not giving you an ID.
So you're going to end up
All
going
right,
to
I
jail.
told him my name is Jeff, and that's all I'm giving you.
Hey, no, if you want to give us your information, then that's fine. But we still have to
Am I being
identify-
detained at this point?
Yes.
For what?
For the identification of you, which is an investigation that they started.
Okay, I'm not giving any identification. I'd like to remain
Jeff for failing to show his ID was standard protocol. But as it turns out, Jeff knew the law better than the cops did.
Threatens him that he's going to go to jail if he doesn't give him his identification because he's there investigating a crime to which he claims the business started the complaint. The male, I think, could see that he was going to be put into handcuffs, so he alerts the officers that he is armed and that he is lawfully armed. He has a concealed weapons permit, and he kind of puts his arms out in front of him.
Okay.
Officer Beatty, and he makes it an exaggerated movement. He says, "Here's my hands out here," and Officer Beatty goes to, take the gun out of his pocket. I think that the male, maybe he felt a little uncomfortable with the officers taking the gun out of his pocket with his hands just being there.
Right.
So he actually suggests, guys, maybe I should be put in handcuffs. So then you see Officer Galt. That's when he comes in and puts the guy in handcuffs while Beatty's retrieving the firearm, and then ultimately searches the male, locates, I believe, some magazines on him.
However, did Officer Beatty have a good reason to follow through with his actions?
The manager was standing right next to us, and he was saying that his waitresses were scared to come out and that they felt threatened and that he was on private property asking for money.
So up to this point, when you asked for ID, up to this point in your investigation, did you have any reasonable or articulable suspicion that Mr. Gray was committing, or was about to commit a crime or violation of city ordinance?
I did.
What crime were you thinking of?
That he was either trespassing or but that's just based off of what the manager. He was saying that his waitresses were being threatened or felt threatened.
Okay. Yeah, I don't recall hearing anything about that from the person, but
The interrogating officer immediately called Officer Beatty's bluff. His narrative was entirely skewed.
Can you tell me why you decided to detain Mr. Gray?
It was in front of a restaurant that was open and full, and I didn't want to make the scene because he was being not aggressive, just argumentative and defiant. So I wanted to take him across the street so that we can figure out what was going on without creating more of a scene.
As you moved to detain Mr. Gray, did he tell you that he was armed lawfully and had a concealed weapons permit?
No. Yes and no. He said he was armed. He said that he was armed, but he didn't say anything about the concealed weapons permit until we got across the street.
Well, I have to correct you on that, because if you watch the video, he does say, "I'm armed," pauses for a second, "lawfully, and I have a concealed weapons permit," as you were taking the sign from him. So that's a matter of record. That's what was said,
Yeah,
okay?
I'm not arguing.
Okay.
That's just my recollection.
Okay.
Of it.
Officer Beatty desperately tried to cover his mistake, but only succeeded in digging himself a deeper hole.
Why did you seize the firearm before he was secured in handcuffs, or at all, if he was only being detained pending further investigation?
Well, at that point, because I thought he was committing a crime, otherwise I want to put him in handcuffs, that he's resisting without violence. I'm trying to conduct an investigation, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. He doesn't want to identify himself, so that's why I detained him. If I'm detaining somebody, I'm not going to leave a weapon on him.
Okay, but wouldn't it be more prudent to handcuff him first and then deal with the weapon issue if you felt compelled to do that? Well, he was being handcuffed.
Right.
That had not been done yet, and you were already diving in his pockets. So, okay. After you walked him across the street, did he advise you that you were violating his civil rights and to proceed cautiously?
Yes.
What was your response to that? Do you recall?
I don't recall.
Okay.
These are the shoes I got on Temu for only $5.66. For those of you that don't know, they just sold over 100,000.
Once again, the truth turned out to be slightly different.
Okay, so I want to make sure that you understand that you're forcing a hand that doesn't need to be forced. Okay? We're not here to take your gun. You'll have it back. Right now, it's mine because we had to detain you. Okay? That's what you pretty much asked us to do. Okay? When you don't want to identify yourself, then we're called. So it's totally different if we're driving by, and that's you over there, right? You're not requesting anything on your sign. You're not breaking any laws, okay? When they complain to dispatch that you're asking for money, and there are customers who are telling the staff that is against the law. So we're doing an investigation to see if that actually occurred. Okay? That's the only reason why you're being detained. But because it's an actual investigation of a complaint, you have to identify yourself. That's state statute. Okay. Just make sure you're aware of what's going to go down, because you won't.
They had made yet another mistake, and Sergeant Kirkland stepped in to clear the air.
The gentleman was not committing a crime. He was completely within his rights. He was on a public sidewalk, and he was simply holding a sign saying, "God bless the homeless vets." Wasn't doing anything illegal or suspicious for that matter. They did not have a right to detain him, to seize him, his property, or anything. That was my ultimate findings.
Jeff, who had been holding up a sign that displayed a harmless message in support of homeless veterans, had been in the right throughout the confrontation.
Officer Beatty is explaining to him that this is the reason as to why he's getting arrested, or why he's been detained, I should say, not arrested.
Right.
And the guy says, "Well, since you have my firearm, I'll go ahead and let you get my concealed weapons permit." And he tells him it's in my wallet, in my pocket. He directs Beatty to the wallet, and ultimately Beatty gets his concealed weapons permit. He uses that to identify him by name and date of birth. He runs him on teletype and confirms that he's not wanted. He doesn't run the concealed weapons permit number to verify that it's valid.
Okay.
But he does verify that the male is not wanted. So he uses that to say, okay, now since you've identified yourself, I'm going to let you go. Basically, that's when they unsecure him. Beatty actually hands him his firearm back and tells him to put it in his pocket. Again, you can see the subject's kind of uncomfortable with that, but ultimately he does take the gun, put it in his pocket, and again pronounces his hand movement, saying, I think he put it up on the police car, so I'll leave my hand right here. And then Beatty went to go make contact with the business.
Okay. So Beatty goes into the business and makes contact with the manager, Axel. Is that correct?
Yes.
The business manager, however, had another wrinkle to this story.
Hey, have you guys been out here the whole time? Have you guys been out here the whole time?
Yeah, I've been in and out.
Is he asking for money?
He was standing out here with the sign. I didn't hear him ask for money, no.
Okay.
I do know that my employee was uncomfortable coming out here because we offer table service out here, and he was just standing. He was standing on our property for some of the time, and
he was standing in here.
My employee was uncomfortable with it.
The entire confrontation was a scheme plotted by an entitled manager who wanted to shoo Jeff away from his property. And yes, he needed a stern reminder about the facts.
So even though my employee's uncomfortable and now I know he's armed, that's okay.
Which he's legally allowed to be.
Right. It doesn't. A lot of people are legally allowed to be that shouldn't be, apparently.
Well, I mean, that's another tree to bark up. I mean, that's not.
I know.
That's not something that we can
It's not something we're going to solve tonight,
Yeah.
right? No, I get it,
But nobody heard him begging for money.
I've been in and out.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
It appeared from watching the video that the bar manager, the reporting party, that I believe his name is Axel, thought that the entire sidewalk belonged to their business. It clearly doesn't. It's a public sidewalk.
As for Jeff, he did what any law-abiding citizen would do in his situation.
The guy asked if he was free to leave. He had originally asked for a card from Beatty. Beatty said he would go get him a card, and he goes in the car. That's actually when Beatty calls me, and the subject, I think, was kind of almost maybe tired of waiting, and he asked Officer Galt for what their names were, and then he just says, I don't need a card, I'll just leave, and then he walks away.
The system had failed him, and that is exactly what Jeff was here to prove. While the officers found his gun and a magazine along with the permit in his possession, they failed to notice something crucial.
I reviewed the video that was recorded by the subject and posted to social media. I also reviewed the both body-worn cameras from Officer Galt and Officer Beatty.
Big news. In the next 60 seconds, I'm going to show you the fastest way to become a millionaire.
There were multiple cameras at the scene recording everything that had occurred. A body cam that belonged to Officer Galt, the first to arrive. A body cam that belonged to Officer Beatty, the flustered cop who made a brash decision. And a body cam that belonged to Jeff, who was here to conduct a little sting operation of his own.
I'll probably stand over here in front of this brewery, the new Smyrna Beach Brewery, and stand on the public sidewalk and say, God bless the homeless vets. And hopefully they will respect my right to freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press on public property. And as always, God bless the homeless veterans.
All of Jeff's fears had come true. The cops seized his lawfully owned weapon, detained him, and handcuffed him. And yet, had they taken the time to lay the facts out straight, the situation could have been avoided.
God bless the homeless vets.
I appreciate what you're doing, but I can't have you doing it here. I'm sorry. No soliciting out here.
Oh.
Thank you.
I'm going to stay here. God put it in my heart to do this. So I'm going to stay right here and do this.
I mean, I could call the police too, but I don't want to do that.
I don't want you to do that either.
Talk to you man to man, you know?
Yeah, I don't want you to do that either. All right, so you don't own the sidewalk?
I do up to here.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. God put it in my heart to stand here on the public sidewalk. You don't own the sidewalk?
We do right up to here, actually.
Right up to there?
Yep.
Okay.
So right now you are on our property. I'm asking you not to be soliciting outside.
Okay. Where would you rather me go?
I'm not sure. That's
okay. Can I have you move down there to the other corner?
I'm sorry?
Can I have you move down to the other corner?
No, this is my place of business here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not going anywhere. This public sidewalk. God bless the homeless, and God put it in my heart.
It's not that. I just told you right. There's not public property.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. I'll call the police. Thank you.
Too bad if you're wrong.
The manager had framed an innocent, law-abiding citizen, and the cops had fallen for the story.
We've already talked about Officer Beatty and the phone call part that happened. Do you feel that Officer Beatty and Officer Galt believe that panhandling was currently a city ordinance?
Absolutely. They both said it non-prompted on their body-worn cameras at separate times. I don't know where they would get that impression or where they may have learned that, but they definitely were under the impression that they did have legal authority to seize him based on that assumption. I don't think either one of them did anything intentionally wrong. I think that they were more or less ignorant that the fact that it is that panhandling is just not illegal. We can't be detained based on that.
But when it comes to upholding the law, ignorance is not bliss. Eventually, Jeff Gray filed a lawsuit against the cops in defense of his First Amendment rights. As it turned out, the Alpharetta police infringed upon Gray's First Amendment rights on 3 additional occasions. Firstly, the lieutenant took control and turned off Gray's video camera, thereby violating Gray's First Amendment right to record police activities in public spaces. Secondly, the lieutenant insisted on obtaining Gray's identification and conducted a search to obtain it, encroaching on Gray's First Amendment right to speak without being compelled to identify himself. Lastly, the lieutenant prohibited Gray from the area, infringing upon Gray's First Amendment right to participate in expressive activities in a public space. However, Sergeant Kirkland stepped in to defend his men.
I think that Officer Beatty thought that he had the legal right to identify him because he was, in his mind, investigating a crime.
The truth, however, prevailed in the end.
He basically detained someone without the legal authority to do so. So clearly in violation of that policy. They were operating under the impression that what they were doing was correct, but were just misinformed.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you straight. Are you of the opinion that Officer Beatty and Officer Galt violated this subject's civil rights based on your review of the video evidence?
Yes. Absolutely.
There you have it, guys. What do you think chances are that any of those guys got any type of disciplinary action? But not very likely. Thanks for watching, and back to see us again. And remember, always film the police.